Good afternoon. Thank you so much
Hello.
for making time. Welcome to the Impact Revolution channel. How are you doing?
Hello, Yoshi. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure and very nice to speak to you again.
Thank you. So likewise, yeah, it's an honor to have you with us. So Albert, just to because this is a short interview, all right, just 30 minutes. Let's get to business, like we say. And
Sure, sure.
you are the professional of meetings, of effective meetings. So le- so let's do it. So at the start, we like to ask you some personal questions so the audience can know you a bit better, and then
Sure.
later we can go to more professional startup entrepreneur
Great. Sounds
business
good.
mindset.
Great.
Okay, so the first question will be Albert, someone who really admires you and highly respects you, okay, in your life. How will define who is Albert de la Riva?
I think that he would say that I'm somewhat nerdy. I mean, I like technology. I like science fiction. I like
Uh-huh.
to play with Legos. Even at my age, I play with Legos with my kids. I like to build things, and that's somehow what defines me. Actually, building things, messing with different tools, and trying to build things to actually and have fun. I like to have fun doing what I do, and that's something very important for my life in both in terms of my hobbies, but also in professional terms. I like to have fun doing what I do. That's
Uh-huh.
what I do. The different things that I do.
All right, great. I love that. And that's very linked to the second question, which will be if I ask you what is your happiest moment in life or what has been, what is the first memory that comes to your mind?
Uh, well, I think that this one is probably easy because once you have kids, the moment what that you're, I would say the first kid because it's what changes the most. But each of my kids has been a great moment. But for sure, I mean the moment of the born of my kids was the
Being a
happiest
parent, yes.
time in my life. Absolutely.
All right, great. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So, Albert, now we go to the interview questions. Thank you for sharing these personal ones. And wanted to ask you, the first one is, if you were to die tomorrow, so it's a bit dramatic, I know.
Yeah.
What is the last impactful message that will you leave to the world?
Well, that's difficult. I don't know. Well, I think about it. It's something a little bit strange, but I think about the impact that I do in terms of leaving a legacy in the world. But in terms
Uh-huh.
of message, what would I say to the world? I would try to say something similar to how I feel. No, try to be happy. Try to do the best you can, whatever you do, and enjoy life, doing good things for the world. I try to live your world a little bit better than you found it,
Uh-huh.
and try to have fun and enjoy and help people while doing so. It's a little bit convoluted maybe, but it's as easy as that.
Thank you, thank you. No, I love it. I love it. All right. And linked to this, and to what you just shared, what do you think is required to get the world better, in your opinion, right now?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy because the
Hmm.
world is complex and there are many things that you can do that might not have the impact that you expected. But I would say that trying hard. I mean, having some kind of objective, some kind of I don't like the word purpose because it sounds like too much like everyone needs a purpose. But having some objectives in life that you pursue and that you feel that these objectives are making the world a little bit a better place. And if you have these objectives and you work towards them, and you don't need to think about them every day, but having them in mind and
Hmm.
understanding that the big decisions that you take in your life move you towards those goals, and then you are advancing in that direction. I think that as long as you keep moving in the direction that you want to move, you are making progress. So that's it.
All right, great. So trying hard, the objectives, and the direction, yeah, which could
Yeah,
be the why or the purpose, yeah, we
yeah,
could say.
yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
And now I'm interested to know your direction and your why, Albert.
Well, as I was saying before, in terms, I was trying to make the world a better place in the regards that I can, and this both in personal terms with my surroundings and my environment, as well as professional. In terms of more in a personal note, with your family, with your kids, with your friends, trying to be good with your friends and giving to them, and in professional terms also doing something that can make the world a little bit a better place, that can help others do things better, and that is doing as much good and as little harm as possible. There are some sectors where I would not work. I accept perfectly that some people might like those sectors, but for me, I want to do things that actually improve a little bit our world.
Okay, definitely, yeah, I agree with that, and I also share that point of view because the more I grow, the more I, let's say, get to things, the more busy it gets life, and you just want to do things that has meaning, right? And it has this purpose and shared purpose. Good. Thank you for sharing that. And now I wanted to talk about the Meetaitech, okay?
Yeah,
And what is the main thing that drives Meetaitech? Because I want to understand, yeah? We
yeah,
were talking a bit before about the foundation. So what is making an effective meeting, yeah? Because we know what is not an effective meeting. So what
yeah.
is what you do, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I started Meetaitech because before that, I have been a consultant, a strategy and organizational consultant for 12 years. And I have been in many different countries, in many different companies, big and small. And all of those companies have a problem with meetings. Some companies have a bigger problem with meetings, and other companies have it more under control. But most companies in the world consider meetings a problem because they have too many meetings, or meetings that do not work as they expected. No?
Mm-hmm.
And when seeing that, we analyzed the different solutions that companies had to that. And we saw that the most that they do was doing some trainings, and people after the trainings improved a little bit, but after a few weeks, they were back to the bad practices. No? And we thought, having all the technological tools that we have today, how come that in no company meetings are really performing? Meetings are really serving an objective and are really well valued for the people in those meetings. And then that's why we decided to build Meetaitech. No, it's a technology company. Beyond technology, we also do services. But what we do is we try to make all the meetings in a company perform better, and that's quite straightforward. It's about applying best practices that we do not even invent them. There are best practices that are known, but try to use these best practices in a methodological way and through technology, so that meetings in a company actually get better.
All right, thank you for sharing that. And if it's okay to share, what
Yeah,
would you say that is the best 20% of those best practices that you
absolutely.
implement?
Actually, these best practices, the way to run meetings for them to be effective. The main thing, and if I had to choose just one, would be
Okay,
about
great.
preparing the meeting. Actually, there is a quote from Benjamin Franklin that says, "By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail." It means that if you are not preparing something, you are
Yeah.
actually getting ready for it to go wrong. So in
Uh,
terms of meetings, this is the best recommendation. Actually, do not go to a meeting without having spent 2 minutes preparing that meeting. Actually, it's
uh,
as simple as defining what is the objective of that meeting. And by objective is not we will talk about, no, what outcome do you really want from that meeting? What result from that meeting would make that meeting a success? Once you have this objective, then you can see, to achieve this objective, what topics do I need to cover? This topic, and for those topics, what people do I really need? And then you start, you have very clear what you have to talk about, very clear who do you really need for that meeting and why do you need those people, and have a clear objective. So that would be the top
the
one.
planning.
Concept to actually make meetings work better, the
Uh,
preparation. There is
uh,
also things in terms of execution and follow up and measuring and providing feedback. But if I had to say one thing to actually made meetings really perform better, it would be the preparation of the meeting. Spend 1 minute, and then that 1 minute will make the meeting 50% better than it was without that preparation.
I love it. Thank you. And I was smiling about the Benjamin Franklin quote because I use it for my presentations as well.
Really? Yeah.
For the action
Great.
planning, yes, for the part of the coaching, the action planning.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you plan to fail, you fail to plan, yeah, or something like that. Yeah, so it was fun. It was fun. Yeah. All right. Very good. Thank you for sharing that with us. I wanted to ask you in another position that you have, that is the board director for different companies. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as a board director, what is the main lessons learned or that you have taken to advise companies to succeed?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it's a very different kind of experience and requirements, because actually a startup cannot plan beyond 6 months. When you are in a startup, you have to see what happens today, what will happen tomorrow, and you cannot see beyond 3 months, because you don't know if you will even be doing the same product, or you will have switched, you will have pivoted 3 times. You cannot look at the long term. And in a board of directors, usually in more established companies, is somewhat the other way around. You have to take a look at the profits and at the results of the current period, but you need to have a very long vision. And that's something that some boards of directors don't really have. Actually, the world is changing very fast. Technology is causing disruption, and business are being disrupted very, very fast. So you need people in the board of directors that actually can look somewhat beyond at the 10-year mark, and actually see what's happening in the world and how these changes can impact your company. For instance, I'm in the board of directors of a plastics company. The plastic industry, it has a very bad reputation. So people want to spend less in plastics, want to use less plastics. This is not something that will happen overnight. It's something that will take a very long time. But if we do not take action now, in 10 years' time, we could be out of business. So we have to start moving now and actually seeing alternatives to plastics, the bioplastics, biodegradable plastics, to actually have the alternatives for the plastics of the future. So this is just an example of something that if you just look at your P&L for today and for the next 3 years, this bioplastic side will not be that significant in terms of revenue. But at the 10-year mark, you will depend on this business unit, and that's something that sometimes the executives, the CEO and the line executives don't really look at it, because it's beyond their scope of tenure. So they are looking to.
Albert?
Hello?
Albert, sorry,
Okay.
I think that.
Hello? Yoshi?
Albert, we're back.
Hello?
Sorry, I don't know what
Yeah.
happened. I think
Hello?
it's the internet went down. I really apologize for that. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No problem.
I've tried to fix it 100 times. I don't know why it's still coming down. So
It's technology. It happens. I was posting the other day on LinkedIn. Nothing works at the first time. So everything that we do and in the technology world, there needs to be a lot of iteration, and the same thing happens in a video call, because actually things happen and internet goes out and light goes out, and sometimes I was in a client meeting and the light went out, and I had to connect fast with my cell phone and my laptop, and in 2 minutes get back in the meeting. So these things happen. Well,
Yeah,
it's
it is crazy. Yeah, it's not perfect yet. This technology. I hope you can change that and you can
I
support.
hope.
That you are a technology expert. All right, great. So we were saying that the board director, that how you are helping in the long term. Because this is not something that the startups are very concerned, and because of the fluctuations and the changes that are coming up today. So it's very interesting, yeah. And what does so apart from this long term or the cultural differences and what you see in the future, what will you see that is changing apart, for instance, that what you just mentioned about the plastics, yeah, that we are becoming more ecological and more environmentally friendly and all that. What others main changes do you think or you oversee?
Well, actually, all the more established companies need to be, I was saying before, more aware of what's happening in the environment in terms of technological changes, of disruptions. I don't know. No one was expecting a war between Ukraine and Russia.
Sure.
Now everything related to energy is upside down. And if you were investing in energy a few months back, you have a great investment. And if you were relying on the gas from that we had in Europe, now you are in trouble. So you need to also to diversify the risks that you are facing. And with COVID, we also saw that we cannot rely too much on just one single provider in Asia. You need to have different providers, some closer, some farther away. And even if it's a little bit more expensive, in terms of security of supply that we have, it's very important. So actually, the world is let's say, it's not as stable as we would like to think, and things change, and we have to be ready for that change, and we need to be agile in adapting to those changes, and that's startups are good at that because they live or die by their agility, but older corporations might not be that good at adapting to those changes, and it's something that we need to put into them. In some regards, it's one of the reasons why I'm in some of the boards of directors that I'm in. It's because this startup experience and this agile mindset that forces us to change rapidly and adapt rapidly to what's happening in the environment. No? And it's something that the startups know how to do because they need them, but the bigger corporations don't really know how to do it that well.
All right, great. I like this agile mindset because that's something I'm creating now and working on, which is
I
the
know, I
agile.
know, I know that you're an expert on that, and that you're helping companies on that side. So yeah, I
Yeah,
know it.
yeah. So thank you because I actually created I bought a Dominion Agile Mind Lab, which I'm going to create in an online course, okay, about this. So it's going to be interesting. And I just wanted to know, how do you implement this, or how you are having this agile mindset? Are you using any tools, or are you using any coaching, or are you using,
Yeah. From the board of directors, not really. From the board of directors, you
Mm,
need people that is open-minded regarding these things. Actually,
mm,
some people consider board of directors as the pre-retirement role. Like you've been an executive during all your life, and when you are close to retirement, you get a board of directors position to do the last years, and you are not really expected to do much. This is not the point. If this is the way boards of directors operate, they have a hard future in front of them. You need
mm,
people in the board of directors that are really aware of what's happening in the world and that are willing to take the necessary risks and the necessary movements to adapt to what's happening. But in terms of tools, as you were asking, we don't really have that many tools because actually, as I was saying, it's not a full-time position. A board of directors meets once a month, and in some cases, once every 2 weeks. But it's not that we are day in, day out in the
sure.
company. So we need to have the elements to make sure that what we consider necessary is happening. But beyond that, we are not really in the day-to-day agility of the company.
Sure, sure. I may did ask the question a bit wrong. I think so. I apologize if that was the case. I wanted to see more like in the teams. Yeah. So you are an advisor like, for the startups. What you want is them to have an agile mind to adapt to changes and to
Yeah,
basically be independent
yeah,
with very little
correct.
supervision. Yeah. So that was more the question is how those teams are being more agile? How are being encouraged or trained to be more agile, or what is your experience
Yeah, well, that's something
in that
that
part?
this part of cultural mindset of actually changing the mindset of the people in a company. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that we really do with Meetaitech. Actually,
That
this change in meetings, it's not something that you can do only with technology or only with training. Actually, it's a cultural change. And
mm-hmm.
actually, and cultural changes takes a lot of time. You cannot change a company culturally in with just one training or with just one tool. It's actually something that requires time, that requires commitment, and that requires effort for the organization. No?
Definitely.
And in that regard, as I was saying, only the technology might not be enough. That's why at Meetaitech, we complement our technology with services to actually make it easier for companies to make this change in mindset. Actually, we assess, we make some small consulting projects to assess the status of meetings in a company. Then understanding the main pain points in the meetings of those companies, then we design the trainings specific to fix the problems of that company. Then we can
Mm-hmm.
use technology to actually make sure that the training that we did and those best practices really stick, and that the companies and all the people from that company really use these best practices. And then we can even use some kind of follow-up and helping the people from that company and accompanying them to make sure that these best practices stay in place. No, so actually it's like a long process of assessing and training using the technology, and actually then accompanying them to make sure that the changes that we propose stay in place. No, it's not something that you can drop and leave. It's something that you
Sure,
need to be with
sure.
them and keep working with them to actually make this change happen.
It's like our coaching program, right? Like there is no one session and that's all, and you change your
Absolutely,
mindset.
absolutely, yeah.
You had to change, you had to be several sessions
Yeah,
throughout the several months and then practice, right? And I like this because you say, yeah, so you first train, so you kind of explain the purpose and why the change is required, and you offer something, and then you support with the technology to make them practice or the implementation easier, and then kind of do sessions, follow-up sessions to make sure that it's been implemented. So it's very
absolutely.
reasonable
It's
and really
as you were
good.
saying. It's the same with the coaching practice. Let's say it's not something that you can drop and leave and pretend that it stays and it sticks and people change in just one session. It's something that you need to keep the inputs coming so that they make sure, and even afterwards, and it's part of what our technology does, is we got the users have information of how many meetings they do, the quality of those meetings, and they get input each week. How many meetings you had this week, and how good were those meetings? And next week you have those meetings. So you have input, consistent input on how it is going and what needs to improve to actually make people never forget. Always keep these best practices in mind, and always remember that some things need to be done differently. No, so it's like always. You cannot just do once and forget.
Definitely. Great. Thank you so much. And now I wanted to ask you something different. You seem to be very productive, right? Because you had this Metatech,
Wow,
and then
wow.
you had this. Okay. Well, I
I try
was.
to be, I try to be, but it's not so easy. Actually, when you have different things in mind, it's sometimes the switch cost it's not that easy because you are thinking of something, and then you receive an email from something else, and this switching. I try to be very specific and segment my activities very well to actually
Uh-huh.
to do not mix them all together, no, and spend one day in one thing and then something in something else. And if something urgent comes up, I will take it. But if it's not urgent, I will keep it on the side and I will take a look at it the next day, because
All
actually
right.
this switching cost, that's another best practice. It's the no multitasking in meetings. Actually,
I
one
was
of the
going to say it. Yes.
top things to avoid is, in the meetings, you are for the meeting. Do not multitask. And people say,
Mm,
no, but I can do different things. No, no one can do different things at the same time. You do one thing or you do the other. You are not doing both. And
uh,
while you are writing an email when someone is speaking in a meeting, you are not taking attention. And then you will ask a question that has already been answered. So do not multitask in meetings.
Definitely. Yeah.
That would be
That
another
why
controversy.
I wanted to ask you. How do you organize and how do you manage your time in order to be most productive for everything that you do? Yeah, because
Yeah, as I was saying, I try to separate things quite strictly,
okay.
and do not be changing all the time, because if you are changing all the time, you cannot focus. I consider
Definitely.
the focus time a very important thing. Having slots of uninterrupted time, and even I try to have as little notifications in everything around me, so the phone is only receives calls, but any WhatsApp or LinkedIn or email do not beep anything. If I am doing a presentation or something, or I'm preparing a proposal on something, I'm working on it, and once I'm done, I will
I
go
check
check
the
my
phone.
email. But I'm
Yeah.
not bombarded with all the pings
Great.
and alarms from different things that well, right now, if we were always listening to all the notifications, we could be all the day only looking at notifications. So
Uh-huh.
we have to be very strict in that. Well, that's in my case, I try to do not be too much disturbed by all those notifications, and try
Uh-huh.
to set slots of time to work undisturbed.
Great. All right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Now that's really useful, and I think it's a good best practices as well. So yeah, I can see you implement what what your talk. Yeah. That's right. So now this is something I just recently published today, which was a newsletter about perfection. Yeah. And how can be very detrimental this perfectionism mentality. I have suffered and I've seen in a lot of CEOs,
Yeah,
directors,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
and heads. Yeah? And today I think that now the world is becoming more competitive. The more we need to kind of polish things and do things kind of perfect, right, or better, or better. What is your opinion about that, and what do you do about that?
Hmm.
Because
I, I, I think for me, it's also, I try to do everything as perfectly as I can. And sometimes I realize that I'm going too far in some details. And I think I should apply a little bit better the 80-20 rule, and try to
yeah,
focus on the 20 that provides the 80% of results. But
that's right.
myself, I try to be a little bit, I go a little bit too far in the detail to actually make it as perfect as I can. But as you were saying, the competition is there. So if you don't do things perfectly, let's say, maybe someone else will, no? So you have to balance it a little bit. But
Mm,
for myself, I think that an improvement point from me would be to let go before this 100% perfection. So once it is at 98%, it's enough. You don't need to spend 10%
okay,
more
just
time
stop
to
in.
actually reach that 100%. Well, this feeling that, yeah, that's perfect. That's it. No,
That's it. Yeah,
so you have to. Well, it's good enough. No, and then you
yeah.
can do more things. No, it's better to do things think five different things good enough that do only one perfect. No, but that's I don't know. That's also a matter of opinion. I believe.
No, it's funny because I think it's important this topic, and sometimes we self demand ourselves too much, and we never kind of have enough, of what we do. We don't appreciate or the work that we have done, and we always look for these minor things
Yeah,
that
yeah,
are not going to do any impact or any significant impact to the client or to the customer. So yeah, I was thinking I wanted to ask you, yeah. Uh,
absolutely.
Now I wanted to ask you because you talk about learning, adaptation, and how the market changes and all that. How do you educate yourself in that sense, Albert? Like, where
Yeah.
do you get? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, for me, not only it's important, I have a lot of fun learning things, and that's somehow the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it allows me to learn about different sectors, about different technologies, about different methodologies. I love learning things to the point where sometimes I think, well, stop learning and apply something, because you can learn about growth hacking, you can learn about artificial intelligence, you can learn about productivity methodologies, you can learn about a million different technologies, but you have to limit what you do. For myself, I try to do some more formal courses. I don't know, once a year at least, something
Okay.
that really think it might be useful for my career. I did one about B2B sales a couple of years back, one about AI for executives 1 year back. The beginning of this year, I did one about growth hacking. But beyond these more structured courses, I try to attend as many sessions about things that I find interesting, both in business schools and different business schools here in Barcelona that are good, or even in online. Even sometimes when I'm having lunch alone at home, instead of what I don't know, I put some YouTube video about I don't know a regression model using some kind of data science tools. No? So it's like whenever I have time, I like to learn new things. But I think
Okay.
that beyond these little bits and pieces, having something a little bit more structured from time to time, it's useful. But it's very important for me, and I think it's the key to be on top of things, to understanding what's
Definitely.
happening and to knowing how the world is moving on.
Yeah. I think it's required to be lifelong learners, right? Sorry, lifelong learners.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely,
there is no other way to survive, I think, in this changing
absolutely.
world. All
Yeah,
right, thank you so much. Is the end of the interview, but I just wanted to ask you just last question,
sure.
okay? So, what will be the last impactful message that will you be able to leave to the startups and entrepreneurs, let's say, community that we are serving, just for them to have success?
Okay, and in terms of recommendation for startups, and something that probably we do not took good enough at the beginning, is
Okay,
do
great.
not focus so much on what you are building, on the product or the technology that you are building. Focus on the client. Many startups are obsessed with their own idea, with their own technology and product, and lose a little bit the point of view of the client. It doesn't matter what you are building. What matters is what the client thinks about what you are building. So if the client say,
Very
you
good.
might be thinking that red is the color, it needs to be red, it needs to be red. If the clients want it blue, you do it blue. Don't do it red, because if you do it red, you will not sell it. And if you do not sell it, you will not get money and you will get out of business. So you make it blue, you sell it blue, and then with the money, you try to do it in a different color. But do
I
not
love
do
that
not
comment.
do not commit to your idea only. What matters
Yeah.
is the feedback from the client, from the users, and that's
Uh-huh.
what really drive the product, the technology, the service forward. Actually, having this input is critical. It's not so much about the idea that you have or your team have or anything. It's about the feedback that you get from the market, from the clients, and
Uh-huh.
building on that feedback on that.
That's good. I like it. Don't fall in love with the product, fall in love with the client's needs
Yeah,
and requirements.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one line summary of what they said. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Albert. It was a big pleasure having this time with you. Thanks a lot for your valuable time. And yeah, keep in touch. Okay.
the pleasure was
So
mine. Thank you very
yeah,
much. Yes, it was a
thank you.
pleasure.
See
Okay,
ya.
bye bye.
Take care.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.